Good afternoon, all. I am Meg Fournier. I am the interim director of performing and media arts here at the Maine Arts Commission. We're so grateful that you have all been here with us today. We have another art break before we begin this session, which is engaging your audience with video content. This video is one that we're very excited to share. Produced by Seven Eagles Media and Newajinan artist, Skikin' and You is one of 8 songs created and sung by Wabanaki youth in 2017. The music video reflects the work of young people of the Penobscot Nation on Indian Island. It is one of over 60 songs produced by Newajinan, a native-led nonprofit that travels to Indigenous communities across North America to amplify the stories and voices of Indigenous youth.
My community is the root of me. We are the people of the first light. We are the Wabanaki. I will not fight you, but I will get educated. I will honor the old ways and I will walk the good path. I will overcome your fear with deep compassion because I am a warrior.
Wabanaki Kyoki, Esko Diodi Buna, Onwab Scawi, Vespermokadi, Nikmawi, Lostagui.
Silence seems so loud. If you understand what we going through, could you stay on the right path if the streets got a hold of you? Digging deep in my head, I'm focused on that bread. Would everyone feel better if I was broken, wound up dead? But I'm telling you to mind your own as I try to build my legacy. If you're down with me, come walk with me as I fulfill my destiny. Rest in peace to all the hopeless haters. Negative fuels my motivator. Shouting out to all the OG natives. We see the future, let's go and chase it.
Much easier to say, but much harder to feel. We all will find out, it comes down to the truth. The road is so rough, but the end is so close. We've been here for so long, just want you to know that we wanna be victorious, but the world is still ignoring us. So let's be civil, let's be brave, cause they will not stop till we're in graves. So dig a little deeper, young girl. So dig a little deeper, young boy. You gotta see this life through to see this legion in you.
Now you know what we talk about. Heartbeats like a drum when we stomp the ground. Can't stop it now, time to lock it down. Trying to derail the ways who the dumb one now. Remember those days, hope was not around. I was feeling stuck, now I've gotten out. Embrace my blood, remove the doubt. Now let it be known, I'ma rock the crowd. From my bundle whoop, skate me up. Listen, we staying up till the days are done. Fight for tomorrow and raise the young. Learn from the elders, listen close to my own the book. Let our spirits show, we can change the world, heal and grow. Restore our lands, what we fighting for.
Don't question where I'm from, the answer's in my heart. You can see it in my actions, it's part of who we are. Taking every day further, it's time that I honored I was a late learner. Carrying tradition, lifted by the song. Land of the ill, yeah, the spirit lives on. It's been so long since we cried, this is our moment to feel alive. We wanna be victorious, but the world is still ignoring us. So let's be civil, let's be brave, cause they will not stop till we're in graves. So dig a little deeper, young girl. So dig a little deeper, young boy. You gotta see this life through to see this legion in you.
My sisters and brothers, we rely on each other. Our community is strong, let's combine and be that thunder. As we lighten up the sky, come out and show your colors. We're stronger when in numbers, so hold on to one another. Let's plant the seed of who we are for the ski-gen generations. Let's find back that mindset to feed our reservations. And more feeling devastation, more healing for our nation. Let's stand up and fight back with no hesitation.
It's much easier to say, but much harder to do. We all will find out, it comes down to the truth. The road is so rough, the end is so close. We've been here for so long, just want you to know that we wanna be victorious, but the world is still ignoring us. So let's be civil, let's be brave, cause they will not stop till we're in grace. So dig a little deeper, young girl. So dig a little deeper, young boy. You gotta see this life through to see this vision in you.
Don't let me, we promoting that. I'm gonna don't get we promoting that. Don't let me, we promoting that. Don't get we promoting that.
Thank you, Wabanaki Youth, Newajanan, and Seven Eagles Media for allowing us to share this with you all today. We should note that all of these performance videos that we have been sharing throughout the conference, we will be sharing again through email so that you can watch them again outside of the Zoom space in any internet, glitches that might be making the video choppy or the sound choppy or anything like that. All of the performances included today have been truly spectacular, and we can't wait to share them all with you again. I now want to introduce our moderator for this discussion, Meg Chorette. Meg is the co-founder and executive director of Launchpad, an arts incubator focused on collaborating with artists, arts organizations, and communities to develop creative places in Maine. As with previous presentations today, we encourage you to add your questions. Oh, there went my sheet. We encourage you to use the Q&A box to ask questions. At the end of this session, we will have an open Q&A time for you all to interact with our panelists. And with that, I will hand it over with the virtual mic to Meg Chorette.
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for having me here. I've been looking forward to this since we were asked to do this. As Meg said, I'm with Launchpad. We are an arts incubator based here in Maine. We have hubs kind of all over the state. This year will be Launchpad's 10-year anniversary, and our projects currently include the Bangor Arts Exchange, a 200-cap performance venue in collaboration with the Bangor Symphony Orchestra, the All Roads Music Festival, which is an annual celebration of Maine and indie music in Belfast, Maine, the Live from the Grand concert series in Ellsworth at the historic Grand Theatre, and Creative Ed, which is our new program. It's educational, offering accessible creative learning opportunities in artistic disciplines across the state, mostly virtual right now. And that is the program we use to partner here with MICA for this conference to produce today's workshop. You can learn more about Launchpad at wearelaunchpad.org. And today I would like to welcome our panelists. We have Alex Steed, Spose, and Wesley Steers, if you would like to join me. Hello, Alex. Alex
Hello.
is Mac Factory. It's a production firm specializing in communication, creative, and editorial content. Thank you for being here. Wesley Steers is with Media Loma. It's a boutique agency that makes video content of all shapes and sizes. And Spose, or Ryan Peters, Spose is a well-known rapper, you may be aware of that, and also has Preposterously Dank Records, which is a label and production house predominantly focusing on hip-hop artists and Spose's own creative projects and collaborations. So today we've come together to talk about how important video content is for all the things that we use the internet now to get out into the world, our messaging, whether it's our music or our small business, or if you're an agency like Wes and Alex and you're helping creatives or small businesses do that work. So thank you so much for joining us here for this. I know all of you use videos a lot in your work and sometimes in different ways. So I wanted to talk about that. Hello. So for the two of you, so Wes and Alex, you guys are working for or with other people to help them kind of bring their visions to life. Whereas Spose, you're mostly usually making videos to get your own messaging, your own products and creativity out. So I want to check in and just see how each of you feel that this need has changed over time. And I think especially since March, I think we'll all agree that that need for quality video content has really risen up. So yeah, how are you feeling about how the video need is going right now? Alex, would you like to start?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, it has. So already we were going in a direction from, I remember the statistics around 2018 was about 70 to 75% of all content consumed and retained in any way by someone online was visual in nature. And then we were talking usually about, photo, video, and infographics. I don't know where that's at now, but the projection was that by 2020 it would be about 90%. I assume last year accelerated that even further. What we're in corporate video production, and so all of the projects people hire us for are usually have a pretty specific look and feel, and then the projects we do for fun have a very different look and feel, usually more artistic, more oriented towards the arts and community. But what's happened this year in a pretty substantial way is our company usually focuses on national, well, it's equal parts, sort of half and half national clients and clients in Maine. Because we haven't been able to travel as much, we're trying to keep our team safe. And because a lot of companies that usually are on the fence about the kind of about putting money into video, very understandably, it's usually a more sizable spend than they want. They're left with situations where there are 1 or 2 events that they do in a year that are usually physical need to be replaced with something as a means of getting in front of an audience or a community or whoever. Usually, often people will do a keystone event or a big party or something as a means of reaching out to the community. And obviously that's not happening, or modified versions of that are happening. So our company has switched, at least for the time being, from focusing on national work to focusing back on regional work and helping companies that are now in this, this conundrum to figure out how to safely create alternatives to their real-time physical events.
Yeah, that's interesting. And then, so then for you, Wes, you're more of like a boutique agency and your focus on the projects is a little bit different than Alex. So how have you seen that change this year? And if you can kind of tell us what Media Loma mostly focuses on, that'd be great too.
Sure, yeah. So we are based in Portland. My business partner is in Helsinki, Finland, but most of our work is in New England, Maine area. So we mostly work in nonfiction. So we're doing documentary content for organizations that are like socially and environmentally conscious. So a lot of nonprofits in Maine, a lot of organizations that are making sustainable products or have a sustainable mission, youth development programs, et cetera. And so just like, I think everything has changed. The schedule for everyone's year kind of like went out the window. And so for us, because we have like a core, very like personal relationship with our clients, we had to stop going to meetings and seeing people and facilitate or strengthening those relationships in person, and started doing it like how we're doing it now. And that then bled over into how we create content. And so, when we shoot nonfiction work, we're shooting everything and then editing 100 hours of footage down into a 3-minute video. The luck with that is that when a video in like a pandemic is needed, that we have a bunch of archives to go back into and we can still make fresh content. Do we miss like going and like having those relationships with everybody, meeting new people and like hugging and stuff? Yeah, totally. But it's been interesting to see how we can, like as nonfiction filmmakers, reuse and recycle some footage in a fresh, like new way.
Yeah. And I've worked with you too through All Roads, and it is true, when you are out in the field and you're working, you are like out there and you're meeting people and you're being personal and you're getting these like really unique snippets of video and audio content. And so I can imagine that would be just a big shift for you in this time.
That's been like the hardest part. Like for me personally, like what I love about my job is that I get to go and meet people and like tell their stories and that whole thing. But also just like going out and like traveling around Maine and New England has been really fun. And we have a small crew, and so we're always having fun in the car and with our subjects and really like establishing some personal relationships. And I really missed that, and like doing that all day, every day, getting into that habit and then having it suddenly taken away was kind of a bummer.
Yeah. And then with you, suppose, Ryan, you use video all the time. So I would say that I'm not sure your video content has increased that much. I know you're live streaming and you weren't really live streaming before, but you've been very steady over the years with your video content. And one difference is you produce your video content a lot yourself and your production, so you're kind of at the control of your own schedule, which means you churn out a lot of content, which is important, I think.
Yeah, totally. I just have a million thoughts after listening to what they said too. But yeah. I mean, I tried 20. Obviously, we could touch on 2020 and just how I personally have adapted to it. Is I couldn't shoot videos basically all year, but meanwhile, I still had a lot of music to release. So I had to create some sort of visual to accompany a song. You can't really release a song or any sort of quantitative thing you want people to consume, whether it's a T-shirt or whatever, without a visual, and in most cases, a video. And so I've always, going back to high school, going back to Wells High School, toying around with like iMovie, or whatever we had at the time, have some sort of background in editing video, which I think any entrepreneur of any style should probably verse themselves in, even if you run I don't know, I saw somebody was a jeweler. It's like if you run a jewelry store, you can produce content for your jewelry store much faster with this and in Final Cut or iMovie or whatever than you could hiring out, especially in 2020. So I really have turned to that. I mean, I was doing green screen stuff with like my kids pressing record for me and editing it myself and loading in the keyer and YouTubing how to learn that, because in 2020, it was really no different than the rest of the years where the game has changed and I had to adapt, and the cost of making, video content, no offense to Wes and Alex, has continued to rise basically while the relevance of the well-produced music video has decreased. So it's there. So that's a hurdle I've had to adapt to. But I think the biggest realization I had as far as video and content goes in 2020 was vertical content, meaning basically like TikTok.
Yeah.
And I'm 35, and this is something my daughter is using that I had to like understand and download and figure it out. And so I've, as every year previous to this, the game has changed. So anything you're hearing in this panel today, if we reconvene in 2 years, we're talking about some different social media platform, some different tactics, changing the game. And so yeah. And so basically for me, the big change obviously was not being able to go out and shoot these kind of well-produced videos, which we've kind of been adapting to for years. So
can I ask Ryan a question?
Yeah.
So when you're like creating this content that is like in this like COVID era, and you're saying that now you're doing it all in-house, or you're hiring smaller firms, or like, do you think that the content that you're creating would have necessitated that artistic approach anyway? Or do you think that if this was not happening, you would be still like looking towards third-party agencies like NAC or like Loma or like Rove or something like that to make your stuff?
And shout out to Rove and all three of you guys. And I began the shift away from that a few years ago, and not to, for example, I basically had been working with Jay Brown for years, who was in the office you're in right now, Wes. And I still have a great relationship with Jay Brown. I texted him a picture of you sitting in that office just now, and he says, "What's up?" But and he says, "You're great." But yeah, I had been shifting away from that for years, because it's, when I go to do my taxes at the end of the year as a small business owner, I basically am looking at these giant, $3,500, $5,000, $6,000 expenses to shoot music videos, which don't exactly have a quantitative return on investment for me as the rapper, as the independent rapper. Different people have different needs and different demands, but I've been teaching myself. I mean, I own Canon, DSLR cameras and lenses and what do you call that thing? Stabilizers. Yeah, Ronins and stuff like that. So I've been gearing towards this for years, but I think the biggest change is that you can record most of the video that goes viral on the internet or that we consume was filmed on this. Yeah. Is, I think, the big change that I think people can benefit from.
Yeah. And I think personally too, there are so many things. I'm 36, and there are things that I'm constantly trying to make sure I know how to use, or at least I know what they are. Like TikTok is one of them. I don't want to be on TikTok, but I don't want to not understand it. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So I'm constantly trying to keep up, and You know, and with the creative ed program that we launched with Launchpad, that was part of it. It was, okay, people may not have a lot of money, but they need a WordPress website. So we'll do WordPress 101 for $20 and we'll give them like a rough and dirty crash course with a bunch of like supporting documents, or same with graphic design. And it's like what you're doing on your own. You're making sure that you're constantly staying educated so that you can compete. And I think that's really smart, personally.
If I could make one more point real
Yeah.
quick, I don't want to like harp on TikTok or sound like the TikTok spokesperson in here, but the big difference between TikTok, unrelated to any sort of like, you know, teenage trends on TikTok, the big difference social media platform wise is that Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, which I'd say are the big three, show you the content either you choose to follow, you clicked, I like this, I follow this, I'm searching for this on Google, so or ads. It's either you followed it or it's ads. On TikTok, there's the possibility that you show up for people who were not looking for you, that had no idea you existed, and that possibility is the big game changer in my mind, especially for people who are talented across all mediums. Like even like 5-10 years ago, like where would you really market yourself if you're a dancer? Where would you really market yourself if you're a guitarist? But you're just a guitar, you just shred. You know, it's not like you're a great songwriter, you just shred. And it allows people who are kind of self-conscious about getting out in public to do it from the safety of their own room, you know, in homes. And I think TikTok, at least algorithm wise, rewards talent. And so I just want to throw that out there as a lesson for 2020. But the big takeaway is, again, some other social media platform will eventually replace that. And just always be ready to pivot and research and see where you get in, where you fit in on those apps, because the possibility to reach new customers is essentially the goal.
Yeah, agreed. And I want to ask too, I know there are a lot of people watching who maybe are already using video content or getting into dabbling in it. Do any of you three have kind of suggestions on apps to use, or tools that you use, like programs you use to make videos, things like that, that might be helpful for people at home to look at? What do you think? I think it's harder for like Alex and Wes, because you guys are making like very like specific things. And I think there's still a need for that. I know you might have a furniture store, but you could do your own, but there's a level of production value and aesthetic that you're looking for. And that's, I think, where people go to like Knack Factory or Media Loma.
Alex, where do you like what Ryan's talking about, that like in-house sort of like do-it-yourself thing? Where do you think the line is between where people can make that sort of content by themselves, and then where do you think that the line is where we start?
Yeah, I mean, I think Ryan said a lot of important and true things, but I think the starting point comes back a little bit, goes before what he said, which is a matter of understanding sort of who and where your audience is or might be, understanding what exactly you're trying to say, understanding the success that comes out of a successful, sort of a successful video. And I think I do think a lot of what Ryan has said, particularly about TikTok, makes sense in particular for people who are saying something creative visually in one way or another. And the point about it going past a subscription base, meaning the people who opted in to listen to you, is significant. For where we come in, I think a lot of the times where companies like Wes's and mine come in are one, does there need to be some discipline behind creating the story, behind creating a story, behind saying something intentional, behind often, Wes, I know you probably deal with this so much with like nonprofits in particular. Is there a board of conflicting ideas about what the video should say? Like, do you need to be insured in order to do this, to tell this story that you're telling? Like, the second it becomes more complicated, than Ryan's one of the most talented people I've ever met, one of the most self-driven people I've ever met, one of the most organized people I ever met. When it takes some of that stuff that you don't inherently have or haven't honed for years, sometimes when you break down the math, you realize that spending a little bit of money to create some discipline around this process and some leadership around this process, I think often that can be helpful. Because if the project doesn't work out, and you put in all this time, that time costs money, and you're without a project. And I would say the other place it comes in handy is knowing sort of what you're looking for. Like I said, we're kind of a more, this just happened over time, like we're a more, you know, a corporate video video company. We do make stuff for nonprofits, but we largely make stuff for larger companies that are trying to have a message that conveys we are professionals in this arena, and they're not really talking to the TikTok crowd. Wes's company does a glorious job of doing very similar things, but also has a much more artistic eye. Is something that might not come naturally to the people who are trying to tell those stories. And so I think that those are the things that are important when you're trying to figure that out. And then the one minor point of disagreement that I'll put up with Ryan is in our experience, the cost of video has gone way, way, way down. And the reason I say that is because 5 years ago, you'd pay X dollars for one video and one video only. And now the expectation is people get like 7 videos for the same cost. Quite understandably, because, you know, if the alternative is you can just make it yourself, that's great. The only other, and sorry, I'll shut up in a second, but the only other caveat I'll offer is that, again, I totally agree that in the past year in particular, when people have had to play shows out of their homes and the standard has become sort of your self-produced, I'm talking about musicians in particular, and my wife's a professional musician, a lot of my friends are professional musicians. When you're now competing with a bunch of other videos that look like a self-produced video, if that's as far as you're going, again, Ryan's usually pushing the boundary on that, but if you're doing just a self-produced video of I'm playing at home, sometimes to stand out, you want to make something that looks and feels different. And if it's out of your skill set, it might be worth either looking into the cost of making it or collaborating with someone who can help you produce that vision in an interesting way.
Yeah.
And to like piggyback off of just what you're saying, so like that kind of, I guess, is like full circle to Meg's original question, which is like, just like if you have like the discipline and you have like the means and the creativity to make it by yourself and you want to learn how to do that stuff, like invest in Adobe, like the suite, or like you asked about programs, like we use like Premiere, which like then can link to like After Effects and Photoshop, and it becomes a seamless thing. Or if you don't have the funds to do that and you still feel creatively motivated to promote your business with video, use Windows Movie Maker if they still make that, or iMovie, or whatever comes stock on your computer.
Yeah.
You know, start like even now, like we're doing Zoom, and you know, I think in the last like 6 months we've started to see like multiple Zoom angles. People will set up like their phone and their computer, so there's like a higher level of production. And so like don't be, if like that's like your bare minimum, if you have a computer and a phone, just like use that. But I think a lot of points that Alex made about that were like very, very right and good. So nice.
Yeah, I agree with Alex. And I just want to also interject one more thing about kind of my experience. And this goes for literally everything I do in my job as basically a small business owner. If I'm not great at it, I go find somebody who is. I'm not great at creating, for example, kind of documentary style video. So when I needed something like that for this app I was putting out, I hired Alex's company, Knack Factory. And when I need a video that is more than I can, you know, create with while I'm rapping, telling somebody to run a camera, and like, you know, if it's more involved than that, I hire Jay Brown. I hire Josh Hand. I hire whomever.
Shout out to Josh Hand too.
Shout out Josh, who's a sweetie. And I'm even actually, I mean, I know the pandemic's still raging, but I'm trying to shoot like kind of an involved video with Josh in a couple weeks, you know, and that is just, and I know that's going to cost me more money, and I know that is what it is, but I feel like I'm putting out a product that deserves that level of visual. It's this song I really believe in. And so, you know, if you've got a little budget, certainly hire these people. If you don't count yourself out. You know, it's basically kind of, because I just think another great example of somebody who's maybe not in any of the mediums we're talking about, who I love how they use video, is an artist from Waterville named Ryan Kohler. I think he did this painting right here behind me, but he's a painter. And what I've loved is just seeing him as he's started to get his paintings out into the world, a video of the gallery with his painting in it, a video from his phone or whatever. Set up your phone and show us you painting, you know, and just these type of things that allow people to feel like they're part of it or to watch your craft. I just think you need video. If you don't have, you're just, you know, I just think it's essential. So however,
the whole point is like that you're using video to like build your brand. And so if you start by making your own video, you're going to learn a language that you can then communicate to somebody else once you get to a point where you have to start outsourcing to a third party, where like your ideas are not maybe necessarily like what your skill set in video are. You have a skill set in something that you're promoting and you've been making your own videos up until this time, but you've used like the knowledge, your self-taught knowledge, the like the autodidact of inside of you to like now be able to communicate, talk about frame rates or like timelines or things like that. All this stuff that maybe you didn't know about before, but that will help a video production company or a freelancer or someone, an independent contractor, understand what you need. So it's like, just as like we would learn about your process as like someone who makes jewelry or a potter or a baker or something, like having that exchange and that relationship becoming circular makes things a lot easier in terms of communication.
Yeah. And one thing I'll say too is I think I manage multiple, probably too many Facebook and other social media accounts, like both for my own projects through Launchpad, but then others that I'm helping. And when you post something with just text about whatever you're doing or your event or whatnot, and then you post it with a video, whether it's professional or it's you in your studio in front of your canvas working, the interaction is always better. The likes are always better. The shares are always better. It's more engaging. People like to know what you're doing. And if you're starting out and you don't have a budget, but you're doing these videos like Ryan said on your phone and you're telling your story and you're showing your space and what you're doing, when you develop and you have the money to maybe do more professional things and outsource those things, those people that you grabbed in the beginning will follow you all the way through your career. So they'll have been with you from the journey of you kind of at the DIY stage all the way to the end. And I think a lot of fans, whether it's music or artists or small businesses, love being included on that journey. I think it's very important.
Can I say one thing? I heard this piece of advice like years and years ago, and the comedian Jonah Ray said it, which was, you know, if you can, that tendency to like pick up your phone to see what's going on, like to see what's going on Twitter, to what's going on Instagram, TikTok, or whatever, like do the best you can to like every other time download some app that teaches you how to do something, or that you can edit with, or that you can make something with, and like take that anxious energy and put it into learning a thing on your phone, because it's not like you're gonna get rid of your phone if you have a smartphone, right? So take that time and like tinker around with an editing app, or take that time, tinker around with like an audio app, figure out how to make stuff with that time. And at the very least, like if you're going to spend that time on your phone, you'll learn how to do something. And I think that, I think that a lot of times I think the barrier for a lot of people is just being scared that once they start it, they won't know how to do it. And a lot of us have, our school system is, or not our school system, but our approach to schooling is scary and punitive and teaches us that if we can't do something, like it's a bad thing. Mm-hmm. But I think that like, just like screw around with it, do it for no reason. Like in order to learn how to make TikTok videos, I was just remixing scenes from horror movies with different soundtracks, like just because that's a thing that I'm interested in doing. Like do something for fun and don't have an objective with it. And and I've seen exactly what Meg's talking about. She's totally right. Like content that goes up online that's exclusively text, or that's just like a picture with some text in the picture, it doesn't do anything. No. Video is what is finding audience.
It makes people feel connected, and people want an insight. They want to feel like they're looking into whatever your world is. It's just the social media world we live in. We are oversharers. So I think it's important to learn how to curate and polish up the content that you're sharing.
One more thought, just one quick tip I've found over the years in regards to exactly what we're talking about as far as posting on Facebook and Instagram and stuff is, and I see obviously a lot of musicians fall victim to this. Everybody does, because you really care about the content you created. You spent all this time on it. The second time you share anything, no one cares.
Yeah.
So few people care the second time as compared to the first time. So that is to say, make sure either you have new content every time. If you can get 5 videos out of something instead of one long one or whatever to spread it out, that's fine. But I'm just saying, even if it's a poster for an event, the second time someone sees it, they're essentially numb to it. They've already seen this in their doom scrolling, and they're like, yeah, I already whatever. And so just beware of that. This is just something I want to toss out.
That's also just like, I mean, that's like the personal side of the algorithm. But then I think probably Alex can speak to this a lot, is like, there's like, if you post something more than once, you're good, like, you'll be like technically buried in like, you know, an algorithm, and it's going to be harder for that to reach a broader audience. Even now, Instagram will, which like, I think probably like is my number one use of like a visual outlet,
Same.
is like, they'll structure it so that if there are posts that you've seen before, they're now in a separate category, and then it'll go into like a new explore, right? So that's been going on for a couple of months now. But if you didn't see something the first time, now it's buried. Now it's like, you don't want to go back and look at old posts. So if
Because
that show poster,
because they want you to pay for the ad to make sure it shows up again.
yeah, exactly. And so I agree that like having like a plan and a thought with that post and keeping it fresh is like a really good, especially from someone like you, you're probably posting like BTS and posters and singles and cover art and like, you know, home stuff as well. Like your whole brand is like built around you as a person. And so you got to make sure that you're not repetitive at all.
Yeah.
Basically every song needs 2 visuals, is where what I've realized is to tell you the song is out requires that visual, which, or it's coming out, which is usually the album cover or something. And then there needs to be some sort of alternate visual. Otherwise you can never post it. It is essentially what it is. Just throw it out there. And one more thing before we leave, I use Final Cut Pro. I have a MacBook, and so it's $200, I think, for Final Cut Pro. It's basically just glorified iMovie, but it's an alternative to Adobe Audition, which you can get with the Adobe Creative Suite. But just to throw out there, that's what I use.
Okay, that's interesting.
And I just because I don't want to always use Adobe. I'm not a great, I mean, to be honest, I'm not a great editor. I'm just the business guy at Mac Factory. But I just downloaded an app that's just $40 called Wondershare sorry, this is terrible. Wondershare Filmora.
Okay.
And it's $40, maybe less. And it's, again, it's sort of like glorified iMovie. It's like 3 additional steps to iMovie, which is helpful. So if you're looking just to dabble and not yet go all in, I might suggest that.
Okay, very cool. I know that we were going to leave time for questions at the end, and I think Kirsten with Mac was going to let us know what those are. Oh, hi.
Hey.
Was going to let us know what those are. Hopefully we have lots of viewers with us.
We do. We've got a lot of folks joining us, and we've got some questions piling up. So this is a great time to kind of direct the conversation. I'm just going to go with the first one I see, which is asking kind of about creatives looking to, say, get onto Netflix or other content platforms. How might an artist get their work in front of those sorts of platforms? So not only just creating your media, but then getting it sort of through a distribution platform like Netflix. Does anybody have experience or stories about that they could share?
As like a nonfiction filmmaker, I very rarely, and since our work is like, you know, is commission based and per client, we're very rarely like outsourcing or making anything that's going to be in the festival circuit or being shown to any sort of distributors. I would say that if you have a short film, that you should you should find out what your short film is and start sending it to festivals, and then people will start seeing it. And then that sort of is like seems to be the way to get it in front of distributors or production houses that will, you know, finance the rest of your movie or so on. So festivals are like, that's kind of like the big key to festivals, is that people will see your stuff and want to help.
And there are, I'm sorry, go for a minute.
So I would say, what's the name of the website that indie filmmakers submit their films? I'm blanking on it now. There's one big website we used to use.
I think Meg F probably knows that. I mean, just I don't know specifically. It's been a while. I'm sort of out of the game. I've just been like working so much as
one big like website where, you know, festival directors go and like look at film. I'll try to remember it.
Yeah, I'm seeing, I guess in like the chat, I'm seeing like Filmway is one, or Film Freeway. Maybe that's 2. But I think that
They're
I mean,
out-
it probably is just a Google.
yeah, they're out there.
Okay.
Alex? Oh, did you want to say anything, Alex, before we move on?
Oh, all I was going to say is there are direct routes for both Prime and Netflix for submitting pitch decks through their actual sites. But once you get to that point, I would actually work with, and I'm not pitching us because this is not what we do, but I would work with someone whose job is to traffic those opportunities. I would start thinking about working with an agent at that point.
Okay, that's good.
That's great, thanks. There's a question about how important is video on platforms like Facebook and Instagram versus, I guess, other kind of posting media. How important is actually video content?
I would say on those two platforms, it's like probably up there, number one. I would say, as opposed to like Twitter, where you're pretty limited. It's all about text. But Facebook is pretty video heavy, and Instagram is now too with IGTV. Would you all agree?
Yeah,
Totally.
I think Facebook, those two specific apps, you know, if you're on the desktop version, they tell you what videos get the most views. It says like right in here, it's like videos that are 3.5 minutes or longer will receive the most views or show up more. I don't know why. It's
helpful.
You know, yeah, I mean, they have little tips and tricks in there. I mean, I think is the question if it's important or what, because it is.
Yeah, that's why I said I was like, it is important. I think it's they're number one.
Okay. Yeah. Yes is the answer.
Okay. There's some okay. If you're got one from a small nonprofit with no real video branding experience, looking for like advice for taking the first steps into this, like the first like 5 steps you need to go from 0 to having some kind of video presence. What would you recommend for those kind of emerging organizations that are just now discovering what they need to do with video?
I would say, I mean, I would ultimately defer to Wes because their experience is much more in this arena. But the thing that I've always run into in working with nonprofits and for-profit businesses that comes way before this process that you think that people would do is just to know what your message is. And I know that that's a wild, seemingly basic suggestion, but often people will hire you to come and spend a lot of money or spend whatever money and make a video or make a series of videos, and you get in and realize they are still not clear on what their message is and who their message is for. So I would say before you even start the process of thinking about that, make sure that that's a thing that you have done. And again, I bet Wes has a great deal of insights here.
I don't know if I can put it down into like 5 steps. I don't know if there's like a program or a formula for how to do that. I think that the first step would be to establish a relationship. And I know that nonprofits have to go through certain criteria to engage with a vendor or to choose a vendor. And so I would start with that first and foremost. Find somebody that or somebody or something like a company that really understands your message or understands the what you're doing as an organization, that has like a personal or has some sort of an investment in it, because I think that the content will probably end up being a lot better if someone understands what you're doing, wants to help you, kind of like understands your branding. If you don't have branding, or if you're like starting from like grounds, like from zero, from nothing, if you don't have like a logo or anything like that, you know, and you're doing that alongside creating video, just keep everyone in touch so that everything's cohesive if you're launching like a new nonprofit brand. Alex said it earlier, is that you're also dealing with the difference between like some clients that we work with on a commercial basis and then some nonprofits that we work with on a commission basis is that just like communication with the board. There's like always differing ideas, and everyone's has a different background, and everyone has a different idea of what they think should happen. So I would just say like become unified in what you want your videos to be, and work with an organization that really understands what you're doing. I'm sure that there's like a ton of other ones I think I put it in the chat. If somebody has like more questions about that, we've thought about this a lot on projects. We've learned a lot. And then on our downtime, we've talked about like how, you know, how do we do this better and how do we communicate better? So if somebody wants to like reach out, feel free to shoot me an email. But I don't know.
And this isn't really my area of expertise, but I just wanted to throw out there, like, maybe the first step is it's not like you can go to local video houses in my area.com even to find like a list of everybody you could potentially hire. So I think a big thing would be go look at the content of other brands around you like, and see it. For the most part, they'll usually tag whoever made the video in the video. So click on that and look at them and reach out, and maybe they're not the one and you move on to the next one. But if you can identify art and visuals and video content you like, you not only can find somebody who can make it, but you can give direction to the person who's going to make it, because you kind of know what you're going for based on what you've seen them do in the past.
Yeah, I want to, that's an amazing point. And what Wes said is incredible too. Like, I think when I think of Spose, I think of Jay Brown, right? When I think of the person you collaborate to make, you have collaborated with a lot to make your visual world. And Wes had talked about a relationship. And I think that not more than anything, because you obviously want people who are good at stuff, and Jay's really good at stuff, and Wes is really good at stuff. But I think that what's imperative is when you talk with these companies, figure out how your relationship's going to work, and figure out if there's a good relationship in values and approach. I think that is, as important as the quality of the output of what people are putting out, because it's a real process. I mean, it's not just, we listen to you for an hour and you say your things and then we make something. It is a process in which we get to know you. It's a process in which we're trying to not just get to know you, but understand who and how you want to be seen. I mean, it's a relationship. And so I just want to underscore what I think Spose has done very well, and underscore what Wes just said, which is just make sure that the people you're going to work with make sense for what you're trying to do.
The power of relationships in this field is like insane, because I remember, like, we started, we're small. There's 2 of us on staff, and then we have a composer that works remotely. We have like we have like a network of subcontractors that we use on a regular basis, but it was just the 2 of us when we started. And we found a client that had no video production, and they wanted to like work with us. We established a relationship with them, and we still continue to make videos with them to this day, and they've become really like amazing friends. And so we took that model and applied that to other clients, and found that, like, you want to kind of like keep some separation between like personal relationships and business relationships, but we're in a creative field, and creativity is like about like opening up and relationships becoming circular. And so, yeah, to underscore what you were saying, Alex, is that the power of relationships in this business is really cool. And yeah, and also Ryan, what you were saying, like, find references, like if you don't know necessarily like what you want your organization's message to be in video format, the right company is going to help you find that through the references that you give them, through the text on your website, through the meetings with you, and so on and so forth. So like any amount of preparation that you can have on the front end is going to help strengthen the delivery on the back end.
There's a question about the questions you would ask to figure out a client's story. Do you have some examples of those questions that usually give you good ideas about who they are and what they're interested in getting done?
Nobody.
I don't know if there's like, again, I try not to like put it into a formula. I think that there are sort of just like the kind of standard, like, what kind of a video do you want? Is it going to be talking about a specific like facet of your organization? Is it a brand video of your organization? Are you trying to make, I don't know if, I think it just comes from sitting down and feeling the room, really. It's like, it's such a personal, and people like, they're gonna know if you're just there as like a business person. They're gonna understand when you sit down and you have like a questionnaire for them or something that you've done this before, and that it's sort of stock. I think that, though that there's merit to that and there's organization to that, I tend to lean more on the personal side and just kind of like listen a bunch instead of asking, and then put together sort of a deck.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think that I think the question I probably ask most and get the most value out of is when you're excited talking about your organization and you're at a party and talking about the organization, how do you describe it there? Because I think often people try to like get in every bullet point, and they try to get in every, people are often thinking like, well, I'm spending money on video. I should say literally everything there is to be said on who and what we are, and that's not moving in any way. And then it ties back to understanding like what you're trying to move people towards. You know, are you trying to just get people to know who and what you are? Are you trying to get people to engage a product? What are you trying to do? And those two questions, I mean, you know, we have 20 to 30 other questions that often come up. But I think that those are two of the most elemental and foundational questions. And you know, like I said, we're primarily a corporate video company, but we do a lot of partnerships and collaborations with you know, projects, organizations, artists, etc., that just make sense, and we know the budget's not there, but like we can partner with someone in doing something that's interesting to us. And I think that there's an important lesson there, which is to get out of, you know, to get out of your, not comfort zone, but to get out of just doing the thing that you always do as a means of, you know, flexing your muscle in an interesting way and figuring out sort of like what other opportunities there are to be available. Because often companies we talk to are so stuck in their company that they, you know, they don't know how to talk about their company or talk about what they're doing to anyone outside of that world. So I suggest people try to get out of that and find other opportunities to help reframe who and what they are.
That sort of goes back to sort of what you were saying about how the cost has gone down, but the delivery has gone up. And so, you know, what you're saying about someone getting in front of a camera for the first time and having to give the whole thing, is that if you're picking the right video production company, or if the project is well thought out, you're going to have a lot of opportunity to deliver that message. And so I would say, like, be patient and listen to and collaborate with, you know, the folks that are making your video. That's a really good point, Alex.
Yeah, same to you.
I've got a question about, this might be for Spose, about live streaming and kind of the limitations you might find about that, or how relevant live streaming is now, or where it fits into this whole ecosystem. I'm doing that sort of thing.
Yeah, well, it definitely fits in the present ecosystem of not being able to play live. So I'd say, you know, don't force yourself to do it if you don't want to. You know, if you don't want to or you don't need to, then don't. But I definitely lost a ton of money as not being able, because I wasn't able to play live. I had to cancel 2 tours and a bunch of local stuff. You know, obviously one of them with Meg, a couple of them probably with Meg. Yeah. And so, you know, I did do some live streams, and I made money from them, which was valuable and helpful to me. And that's not to say that's the only reason I did it, but I did it also to not lose touch with the fan base. And there's a lot of limitations. I mean, I had to get my nerd YouTube skill on to teach myself another program to even do that, called OBS Desktop. So I could basically route several cameras, and I have a mixer here still from live streams I did a few months ago to run all my audio into a mixer into here. So, you know, there's obviously, and you can hire that out too. I've had a great experience doing live streams when there's a third party kind of running the stream for me. I did some specifically at the Sanford Performing Arts Center down here in Sanford, which has this like state-of-the-art new performing arts center where I played, and then the Rustic Overtones just played, and Mal Brothers played, and then a lot of venues have put on great live streams. You know, there's been the drive-in up in Farmington and other drive-ins and stuff. So yeah, I think it's valuable and it's great, but I would like that era to be over.
In like a space where like you are, so kind of going back to what you were talking about with DIY video, with Sonics being your like main output, how do you ensure that the quality of that is high enough that you feel good about streaming it? Are there like resources like websites, or have you found any like reading things online that you could share with people? Because like I play music too, and I'd like to know how to like stream stuff that doesn't sound like bad, you know?
Yeah, so I noticed, especially early in the pandemic, and I'll try to be quick because I know we're running out of time, but everybody was doing these live streams basically from their like phone microphone, you know, like in the room, and it just was, to me, not nearly as high quality as you'd get live, obviously, but just not even like up to par of what some of these artists are, you know, that their brand is a certain level of quality. And so some people get away with that. Some people are just that talented. But for me, I had to, basically what I did was I created a separate mix that was like, this is what it's going to sound like to the stream in-house. And then I ran that mix into the mixer. And that, at that point, even I pulled up the stream and had sent a link to my friends and was like, hey, could you test this for me? How's this sound? I mean, and it's troubleshooting and it'll be different for everybody. But for me, who's running beats and a microphone and a guitar, is pretty simple, cut and dry with a mixer. But again, everything's going to be, you got to, any nerd skill you can learn, no matter what your field is going to help you, especially navigating the twists and turns of pandemics and civil wars and whatever you have to navigate.
Alex, what was I know I saw the live streams that you guys were doing, which were sick. Like those were like, so sounded good, those looked good. And so like, what was that? Cause like, I've been watching like KEXP videos like out the waz. And so it's like, I want to know like how you guys made that look and sound as good as you did.
Well, that was a so we had a series called Keep On Keeping On that we did in partnership with Bissell Brothers back in May, because we knew that musicians weren't making any money. We wanted to do something that was like as safe as possible, so we figured the whole thing out, whatever. And we partnered with Bissell, we partnered with Halo in Thompson's Point, and then the biggest piece was AV Technic, because AV Technic does like professional event streaming. So like you just plugged into them doing their whole thing, and we were just there with cameras making sure that the event happened in a good way. If it wasn't for that thing, you know, everyone played an important part, and AV Technic probably played the most important part with regard to putting together a good looking stream. But I think that speaks to the thing that I was seeing, which is exactly what, you know, what Spose just said, is like, you know, I saw 20 or 30 camera, you know, phone camera live streams a day in a tinny room, probably like I sound like right now. And so I wanted to figure out how to do some professional looking alternative to that. So I think that there's opportunities there, but it requires a lot of partnership and collaboration so that you're not doing all the lift yourself.
It kind of ties into the earlier point about video. If it's basically, if you want to sound as good as you sound live, then go hire the people who do sound for live shows. If you want video that looks as good as professionally produced video, go hire the people who do that. If there's something below that you're looking for, do what you gotta do.
Yeah, and I would say that too. I mean, I'm not a musician, and I wasn't savvy with Zoom or anything like that until November when I started working with Blue, and now I'm on live streams 5 days a week with artists, like helping them make money. And I don't have anything professional. I have my laptop, I raise it off my counter so no one's like looking up at my chin. I bought a halo light, like that's it. And so if you're just telling a story or doing DIY tutorial videos or things like that, you don't need to spend a lot of money, and just play with it. Like it is nerve-wracking when you don't know something, but you just have to learn it. And, you know, watch 2 less episodes of something on Netflix and play with an app and figure it out. And it is a little different, but it is worth it. It really is for your brand.
We're kind of running out of time, but before we kind of do the wrap up, we've got a question just asking for success stories about working with women video makers, or I guess any video makers, but let's focus on women supporting and collaborating and promoting. Who's really good in Maine that you like working with?
I will say Sarah Violet from Violet Media was invited on this panel but wasn't able to make it, and Sarah's doing great work.
If I just may interject, I love Sarah. I've known her for years, obviously as a rapper, but Sarah transitioned into video as a necessity and photography because she loves birds and all these various different skills she's taught herself, both by necessity and out of fun. But I hired Sarah to run camera for me on a little video I was directing a couple weeks ago, because I was like, I have a great working relationship with Sarah. I can text her, you know, I paid her what she needed to hire her for the day. And, you know, I directed her to run a camera, but she can direct herself. And shout out to Sarah, and shout out to anybody learning new skills in their late 20s, 30s, 40s, whatever. You know, I think that's awesome.
We're like one of the few female run video production companies in Portland. So my partner Mel, who lives in Finland, and she comes back for shoots and stuff, we collaborate with other female identifying filmmakers, and she has a lot of resources again, like email us if you want to know things about like female filmmaking groups. I know that there are other people in town like Good Fight, like Alex Morrow is a really good resource. Like there's a ton of people. There's like, I just got like Alex Morrow is doing this thing right now where she's facilitating a nonfiction like filmmaking like festival sort of. It's like an online festival and has just like gotten so many incredible filmmakers to be a part of that. So that's mainstreetusa.org, Maine, like the state that we're in, that we are, I don't know about you, but so there's like a lot, yeah, there's Portland female filmmaking groups and lots of other opportunities for female identifying filmmakers.
Sure.
Yeah, and I would just say I would echo Alex Morrow. We've collaborated with Alex quite a good deal over the past handful of years, and then at Knack Factory, one of our lead producers is Lindsay Heald, and she just does. She's encouraged us to be creative in ways that didn't intuitively come to us. So we're super grateful to her, and she's very good buddies with Alex as well. So there's a rich community in this state of people making this stuff. So if you're looking for someone to collaborate with, there's someone pretty close to you, I'm sure.
Yeah. Shout out to Emma Gregg too. She's a great producer in town.
Yes, that's true.
Lots of people. I feel like just naming names is gonna be tough because then it's like I think of more. It's like, you know.
I know. That was a good question though.
I think we're kind of nearing the end. If we want to leave parting thoughts with our guests about video making and content and the 21st century, I think we've got just like 2 or 3 more minutes left before we've got to be on to the next session.
Sure. Yeah, I just want to thank you all for being here and agreeing to do this. It's been a great little hour of discussion. I hope that you all got something out of this. I hope you 3 on the panel got something out of this as well.
I got to look at Alex and Wes for a while. That was great.
Yeah,
shout out to that.
Yeah. I mean, I can't. Wes said something earlier about just missing. We're all creative people, and creative people love being around other creative people. Mm-hmm. And I miss it so hard. I miss it a lot. And so it's just any opportunity we get to see each other's faces talking about this is great.
Yeah, it's like it's one of the biggest parts of our business. I guess it's like the camera thing, but like also just like, yeah, that relationship building is incredibly important to us, as it is to you and as it is to you. I don't know if you guys know who I'm pointing at, but everyone, all of you guys.
Awesome. Well, I guess
hopefully next time we do this, we'll do it in person.
Yeah,
that would rock.
Yes, that would be amazing. That'd be great.
So I don't want to volunteer you guys, but you know, we posted links to your websites and your businesses earlier in the chat. I think people who are attending this should feel free to contact you with more questions, or if they want to, looking for someone to hire, looking for some answers. I think that's part of why we do this, is to try to keep those connections going, even if it's over the phone or over the internet. So I'd like to encourage folks who are attending this to use this as an introduction point moving forward, Alex and Wes and Spose and even, you know, Meg and myself. If you want to reach out to us, please do so, and we can continue this conversation moving forward.
Yep, I would.
Yeah, and I'm always happy to connect somebody with somebody else. It's like, feel free to hit me up if you're trying to get in touch with somebody I hired to do something. Like, I don't need you to hit me up just to hit me up. I would love to connect anybody and keep Maine people working together.
Yep, agreed.
And if anybody wants to babysit my kids, feel free to contact me as well.
All 5 of them.
Yeah, only 4 for now, but maybe 5 if you babysit.
Are your kids putting bars on your records yet, or what's the deal?
I'm trying to just quit and let them just do bars. I think their potential's much higher.
Apple tree, that whole thing, right?
Exactly.
Let's hope.
Love it, man. Thank you guys.
Thanks so much.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, y'all. Good to see everybody.
Peace.